had to make sure that this was working, but we're recording, so you will get a copy of this afterwards. But I want to thank our president for his Leadership Institute, and our VPs and directors, and our cohort members, and like I said, and the family members. So today what we're going to do is you're going to hear from each of the cohort members. They're very excited to share their capstone projects. They have 5 minutes each. And this lovely lady down front is going to hold up the sign with a number 1 to show you that there is 1 minute. And so the President's Leadership Institute, for those of you that don't know, it is a 1-year professional development experience, and the purpose of this really is to build the connections across campus, the collaboration, knowing not only our college's operations, but how things are interconnected, the services and programs. And so we were very intentional this year to select people across campus, a diversity of individuals, a diversity of leaders, and ultimately we want to be an example to the nation in higher education, and I believe we have the team to do it. So for those of you that are supervisors, we are looking for the top of the line folks for next year. There will be a new cohort that will be admitted. And so this is our first cohort. And so we're excited for you to see what they've done through the year. And so with that, I just want to say welcome. And we're going to start with Amy Bradbury, who's going to share about re-envisioning budgets. So let's give her a warm welcome.
Okay, so my capstone project, so I'm over, financial services, which is nothing overly exciting. But I'm going to stand kind of over here because I feel like I could only see my forehead over there. What's that? Can I take it? Oh, there we go. I could break it, I'm sure. Okay. So in thinking about my capstone project, I thought about something where our office affects many people, and how I can focus on something that is college-wide. And so budget is something, a lot of the members of the Leadership Institute are cost center managers, and they know very well the frustration with the budget and our process in Workday. So we went to Workday, a software it's new for the college. It's only about 5 years old, and anyone that's done a software transition knows it takes 5 years before you really start to maximize the potential of it. So we're right at the point where we know where some of the issues are, and we feel the pain points. And so my project was really to talk with cost center managers about what they want to see, what would be useful for them, and then cleaning up the system for what they need. So when you think about budgets, a budget reflects your priorities. That's what it does. But when you ask people what budgets are, they're annoying. They think it's about control. It's planning. It's, okay, I have to spend less. That's what a budget is. And so it's really good to have those discussions, but putting the pieces together in the system, digging into, like I said, where some of the issues lie, where some of the disconnects are, putting it together, and then what we'll follow up is training, and hopefully we'll give the managers the information that they need. But one thing you find when you give data is it breeds the request for more data. So some of this has been, here's where we started, here's what I thought we needed, and here's where we're going to end up. So we expanded Budget Check, so just kind of a little bit of a timeline of some of the nuances. We expanded Budget Check to go over a wider portion of the budget, not just a few departments. We started utilizing supplier contracts in the system in addition to purchase orders. Like I said, way too much in the weeds. We have a new budget report. We started doing payroll commitments and obligations, and we can update those now. So today, we're doing some budget and some rollover testing to expedite that process so that hopefully as we're coming up on our fiscal year end, it's a little less painful for everyone as we close out. And so we'll start the new fiscal year with some budget trainings, and we actually already have set up a team site that is specific to cost center managers and those that look at your budget, so there's an easy way to communicate and ask questions, because believe it or not, everybody kind of has the same questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Amy? That's just burning inside. Okay, well listen, Professor Julie Baruti could not make it, and she had an issue come up, but she actually went ahead and recorded her message over her slides. So let's listen to her project.
Greetings. I wish I could be with you all in person today. However, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to bring you up to speed on my capstone project. My President's Leadership Institute capstone project is focused on developing a micro-credentialing program at TCC. Micro-credentials and badging are poised to be the next disruptive force for upskilling in education and the workplace, and everyone from schools, nonprofits, and businesses is using them. So what are micro-credentials, and why should we develop a micro-credentialing program? Micro-credentials are mini qualifications that demonstrate skills, knowledge, and/or experience in a given subject area or capability. Also known as nano degrees, micro-credentials tend to be narrower in range than traditional qualifications like diplomas or degrees. However, they can also be broad in focus rather than specific. For example, you can have a micro-credential for something as broad as data-driven marketing and offer another micro-credential focusing specifically on personal time management. So why micro-credentialing? It's all about our commitment to each student's success and the value of individualized learning. The potential uses for micro-credentials are far-reaching. Offered within an existing degree program, micro-credentials can motivate current students to persist. They can also be an add-on to an existing degree program. Micro-credentials can allow students to distinguish themselves in a competitive job market through mastery of skills specific to their chosen field of study. There are so many moving parts to a program such as this. Here is a short overview of our current timeline that is, of course, subject to change as we move through the process. In April, our workforce development area started a pilot program in partnership with Myers-Briggs to begin embedding badges in some of their coursework. This is an exciting piece in our landscape of micro-credentialing development. On the academic affairs side, we created a task force to begin work on a micro-credentialing program. The task force is comprised of members serving on the Curriculum and Innovation Committee. The Curriculum and Innovation Committee will have oversight over the micro-credentialing program in order to maintain standards. Since TCC is vouching for these credentials, there must be a process for review to ensure that quality is maintained. Our first academic side micro-credential was proposed at the last meeting of the Curriculum and Innovation Committee. It is an 18 credit hour business analyst micro-credential in the BIT division. It was created in partnership with local employers. The task force will continue to work over the summer to explore the different ways that micro-credentialing and skills badging can serve our students. We believe that academic quality is paramount. Our micro-credentials and badges will be initiated locally, developed and improved through the standard TCC procedures through our Curriculum and Innovation Committee. Obviously, they will be consistent with our campus mission and strategic goals. They will give us the opportunity to respond to our employers and are designed to meet market needs, informed by current employer data, and aligned with relevant industry and sector standards. Perhaps most excitingly, they provide opportunities for industry education connections and partnerships. The opportunities here are endless as we can be responsive, perhaps even offering micro-credentials that are sponsored and endorsed by industry partners. They allow us to be flexible and innovative and not necessarily to adhere to CIP codes for program development, etc. It is important that we develop avenues so that our micro-credentials and badges are portable and have value beyond the institution. And of course, we want to be creative about offering and developing pathways that keep students engaged in continuing their education with stackable micro-credentialing opportunities where multiple micro-credentials can lead to credit-bearing coursework, a more advanced badge, or a registered certificate or degree. There is so much more to come as we develop this project, and I look forward to keeping you up to date as we embark down this exciting path.
Alrighty, so Julie, we love you. You're going to see the recording of this. Great job. And I will say a lot of these capstone projects through the year, several of our cohort members have not completed because the research that goes into it and all that the timeline, they're still going to have an opportunity to finish. So next year, when we have our new cohort, they will be presenting their final capstone data to the new cohort, and we will continually work with them. But at this time, I would like to invite Brielle Crooms to come up and introduce herself and share her capstone project. So let's welcome Brielle.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Brielle Crooms, the Executive Assistant to the Office of the Provost and the Office of Academic Affairs. I will essentially be talking about an outreach plan for students that have a GPA of 2.0 or higher. And essentially, it's all started off as, how do we, what happens to those students that stop enrolling or registering for classes? What do we do with them? Who's on that list? Is anybody contacting them? And so it was a very, very a lengthy time of trying to figure out, okay, well, who do I start reaching out to? Because I'm pretty sure there are quite a few students on this list whenever I get the chance of getting my hands on it. And so after a lot of different conversations of, okay, well, once you get them, well, how are you going to reach out to those students? What are you going to say to them? What's going to grab their attention to actually want to have that conversation with you? And so once I actually got the data, fortunately from our lovely institutional effectiveness area, they were able to compare information with the National Clearinghouse to say, okay, we have students that have not graduated from TCC. They have not transferred to another institution, but their GPA is above a 2.0, so what caused them to stop? And so, after looking at all of that information, we said, all right, well, the students that have GPAs below a 2.0 are already reached out to. So there's no need in contacting those students. On top of that, it may be a little bit harder to, get them back enrolled just because they have a few barriers in the way. So after going into that aspect, I said, all right, well, we can definitely, reach out to those students above, and then kind of taking a look at the data that was there. And so after looking at every single one of the fall FTIC cohorts, we looked at 2018, 2019, and 2020. These were the numbers that were on this particular list. Not super high, but it's still a great amount of students that have not been contacted. So in that effort, it's like, okay, well, how am I, as the executive assistant, trying to manage my little tasks that come along within a day's time? How am I going to reach out to this amount of students where it's manageable for me? So started to map some things out and decided to go into phases. I got some great help from a lot of different leaders here on the campus that, geared some good advice and suggestions on how to do so. So starting to go into phases, that will be the best way or the approach to do so, and reach out to them via text messages. So I've started my first phase of students that have a GPA of a 4.0, clearly the easiest ones, and you wouldn't believe that we would have students of a 4.0 on this list. Why haven't you transferred? Why haven't you, finished your degree? What's going on with you? And so after reaching out to those students and realizing that, okay, well, had a very friendly message. Hi, my name is Ms. Crooms. I really want to help you get back enrolled into some classes. And so to do that, sent out that message just to see what type of responses I got. Only 33% responded. However, within that 33%, there were some students that just said, I can't access my student account. Well, how simple is that? We can get you access to your student account if that's what's holding you up. Other students said it was financial barriers, and it was just a few of those, but I'm like, okay, well, we can get you scholarships. And then the other students said, I have already transferred to another institution. I'm over at Florida State, I'm at FAMU, I'm at UF. And so I said, okay, well then that, that gives some answers to those particular types of students. So then my next phase is to go into phase 2 and reaching out to those students that have the 3.75 to 3.99 GPA to see if they're gonna have some similar, cases or scenarios of being able to, to get them back enrolled. And so it's just an outreach plan just to see, all right, well, how do we reach out to those students that clearly we need the enrollment, and we want to make sure that we're reaching out to every single one and providing them with the help and the resources that we have available to them. And so just going into those phases allowed me to be able to do so. And so this is just a little timeline. And then an example over here, we had a nice student who was very happy to have me actually reach out to him. And I said, okay, well, great. I have some responses. I got so excited. I said, all right. Well, called him, and he was so excited. He says, well, I've actually been waiting for somebody to reach out to me. Well, of all people, I'm that person. Well, I'm glad that you're back. So we've got him back into the weaves of, getting access to his student account, making sure that he reapplies to the institution, and getting him back enrolled in some classes. So he'll be starting in the fall. And so just going from there, just reaching out to those different phases, as I stated before, based off of the GPA, it seems to be, we have some students that need the assistance, they want the assistance, and they want that outreach, and it's some students that have already transitioned over. So just going from phase to phase, that's just my timeline, and that's what I'll be doing for the next few weeks. Okay, well, I said it. Okay.
All right, thank you, Brielle. So at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Brian Hooper up, and he's going to talk about race and equity awareness on learning objectives embedded into the social science courses.
All right, thank you. It's always difficult to present after Brielle. Go ahead and put out a disclaimer. I am nowhere near as bubbly, so we're just going to go with what we have. So, my project is designed to include equity and race awareness learning objectives into the social science core classes. So, let's start with the why. Wait a minute. Something's going on with my slides. Okay, these are no problem. So, basically, the college is already doing a lot of work regarding equity. So the idea of this design came up before the President's Commission on Equity, and the design is to be a drop in the bucket in regard to everything that the college is doing regarding equity. So basically, it's to develop and implement learning outcomes in social science core, including AMH 2020, 2091, POS 1041. So I work with some faculty in my area. We did a lit review to incorporate and design some frameworks that are empirically sound and create some learning objectives that align with best practices. So we looked at diversity, equity, and inclusion extension, cultural awareness, equity program. They have a really good framework. USC Center for Urban Education, equitable outcomes framework. We did look at all the work that the President Commission on Race and Equity has been doing in regard to all of those subcommittees, and the student success subcommittee as well. So why? Everybody here knows the mission of the college is to provide a learning environment that prepares students for success in a global economy by offering higher education pathways, workforce opportunities, and civic engagement. That civic engagement part is important to me because currently I serve as Associate Dean of Behavioral Social Sciences and Education, and civic engagement is the hallmark of what happens in BSSE. We have the political science courses, we have the American history courses, we have the African American history courses. So that civic engagement is a big part of what we do. And personally, considering the political climate in America, regardless of what side of the political arena you're on, I think we as TCC are going to do a disservice to our students if we don't have these discussions that are going to prepare them for whatever is next, whether they're going to transfer, go into the working world. They need to be having these discussions, and BSSC is where that's happening. And again, along with everything that's happening with the President's Commission on Race and Equity, this is a part of the strategic plan. Looking at student success priority is to promote a student-centered environment that focuses on student achievement, engagement, and educational excellence. Also, looking at the work in Sherry's area for the TCC Cares initiative. TCC students feel welcome and engaged are much more likely to be successful in courses and enroll in future semesters. We also found that there's an equity gap. Marginalized groups consistently have lower success rates and are less likely to be retained. And also looking at that data, TCC Culture of Care lists a driver of student success as social integration and increased sense of belonging. So again, as I said initially, the purpose of putting these learning objectives into the social science courses is to just be a drop in the bucket for all the work that the college is doing regarding race and equity. So the how. My faculty have worked with developing learning objectives, developing the rubrics for those learning objectives, and now we're in the process of working with Curriculum and Innovation Approval Committee. We will be submitting in the next cycle. We also going to work with Lay's office to work on the development of a student assessment because, again, I think it's prudent to make sure that we get student perceptions on the learning objectives and how they view them as important and how they view them in regard to the assignments that are going to be taking places in the courses. After that, we plan to do a small pilot for June Express. I have already secured 3 classes, one 2020, AMH 2020, one 2091, and one POS 1041, and the faculty that will be teaching those have already been certified in ACUE certification. So after that, of course, there's post-assessment and data collection, and then, of course, program revisions and implementation. And again, the purpose of this is to just be a drop in the bucket for everything that the college is doing regarding equity. As I said, BSSC is the perfect place because we already have the classes situated where these conversations are being had. It's not that we have to go outside of the arena of our discipline to have these discussions. So they will be, at times they will be heated. We have a lot of heated discussions in BSSC, but that's the point of it. If we're going to provide our students a service where they're going to be sent out into the world as civic engaged individuals, I believe this is pertinent information. Any questions?
All right, so I am going to invite Dr. Gerald Jones up, and I will say, as each of them present, all of them have tied their work into the strategic plan, which is built upon access, student success, workforce, partnerships, and resources and efficiency. So it all ties together the work of the college. So let's welcome Dr. Jones.
Clickers, microphone. You got it. Okay, technology. All righty. So, you know what? I think it worked out very well that I followed Brian because what I'm doing complements what he's doing inside the classroom. And that's really what we do in student affairs, is that we engage students outside the classroom. So I have a clicker in my hand. I think I'm going to do this right. Okay, good. Okay. So my capstone project is to design an onboarding experience for our minoritized students. And the overview of this project is to implement an equitable support design to influence student retention of these students by hosting a specialized onboarding program. Now, I know you say we have convocation. Yeah, we do. And those students, too, will be invited to convocation, as all of our students. But the data also suggests that when we could develop programs that gain a sense of belonging for these students, they have a better chance, a higher chance of also coming back the next semester. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to start right. We want to roll out the red carpet for our minority-tized students. Our assessment will be surveys, focus groups, observation, as well as institutional research data. And this is a familiar slide that we've all seen before. So when I started the Institute, this was one of the slides that, in terms of these numbers, look at the equity gaps between white students and our minority-tized students, and particularly our African-American Black students. This is not just about TCC. This is a national conversation that colleges continue to struggle in terms of closing the equity gaps of these particular students. And we know we've had even greater success in the fall of how these students were able to finish more successfully their courses, their classes. And so there's even more data on this. This does not tell all of the story, but it's good to know that we are making some grounds, we're making some gains. We're probably moving the needle, but not closing the gap. Closing the gap is the ultimate goal that all institutions strive for. What are the learning outcomes? We want to create a sense of belonging and nurturing. When a student comes to TCC, what will be their overall thought process of us? Will they feel like they belong? And what do we do to foster that? We want to understand success strategies for college completion. So this is what we want to do for all students who are engaging in this experience. Understand success strategies for college completion, recognize areas for improvement while pursuing academic success, and explore the academic success patterns of high-achieving minoritized students at the community college. We talk a lot about barriers when we talk about equity and students, and this is what we hear a lot. We hear about the barriers. Why are they not coming back? Why are they not finishing? Why are they dropping out? Where's discontinuity? Many of them transition from a small town to an urban transition, learning to be on their own, difficulty coming to terms with the value of job versus education. In other words, is college worth it? And a lot of them are battling that, and lack of nurturing, lack of family support, understanding, lower expectations of students by faculty or staff, lack of minority role models. Now, I got to toot TCC horn. We are doing an exceptional job with the minority role models, and I want to tell our president for his leadership on that. And then as I close, we want to focus on triumph. So all of you all will be a part of this onboarding experience, because this is what successful students are able to do in terms of minoritized students. They're able to triumph over financial aid problems. They're able to adapt to campus life. They're able to adapt to family support. They understand the importance of faculty. So these are all of the nuggets that's going to make this particular program a success, and it will be coming to TCC in September of this year. So that's my capstone in a nutshell. Thank you.
Great work. Thank you, Dr. Jones. So I would like to invite Dr. Jessica Griffin up, and she is going to talk about Student Service Model for Career and Technical Education certificate programs. So let's welcome her. You're going to do fabulous.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I guess Miss Angela spoke it into existence. I am not a doctor, but I guess I will be in the next couple of years, because she has a vision for me. It's one of those things I spoke about earlier about follow through. It has been an idea, but I have not stepped out on faith to do it. So we shall see. All right, so I am Jessica Griffin. I am the Director of Continuing Workforce Education here at TCC's Division of Workforce Development. And my capstone project is a work in the making. The goal of my project is basically to create a formalized, student-centered success service model for our career and technical certificate programs. However, just because of our capstone project, I am going to focus specifically on the clock hour programs that Workforce Development offers. So, how was I going to go about collecting some of my data? So one, I wanted to have focus groups with our students that we currently have to kind of see what their outlook is on the student services experience that they have. Do they feel comfortable? Do they know what's available to them? Different things to that nature. Also, I wanted to have a student orientation evaluation. Basically, with this particular concept, I wanted to develop an online orientation specifically for our clock hour students to make sure that they were aware of what was available to them, and then have a survey or evaluation tools, to make sure that we captured that data. And then last but not least, I wanted to make sure that we had a holistic experience with our TCC advisors. So I would have to do cross-training with our TCC advisors and do a pre-assessment as well as a post-assessment. And luckily, I have had the opportunity to do some training with our TCC advisors in which we could then establish some guidelines to see what information they knew about WD, see what they didn't know, and then that way we could build upon that to see how we can develop a better cross connection. So why are we doing this? In September of
My name is
2020,
Austin. I am enrolled at the welding program.
let's see. We're gonna go back to that. Okay. In September 2020, Governor DeSantis launched the Get There, Florida's Workforce Education Initiative. And this particular initiative basically highlighted the fact that Florida has a number of programs that are short-term, lead to in-demand occupation, and that's available for any student in any walk of life. And so with this particular initiative, they kind of did a big launch so where they can ensure that everyone in Florida knew what was available for them. And so it provided TCC the opportunity to expand the support of this Get There Florida by making sure that we are ensuring that we are recruiting individuals for these programs, we are retaining these students, as well as we are ultimately producing individuals for our local workforce. And that's basically what Get There is all about. And then in this video, I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we are doing right. This is one of our welding students, and you can hear from him what his experience is like.
At Tallahassee Community College. The instructors are fantastic. The staff is great. I'm learning a lot more than I ever thought I could. I'm building on my own creativity. I found the abundance of jobs you can do in the welding industry all over the country. I'm thriving here. I enjoy coming to class every single day. I couldn't imagine what I would do if I wouldn't be in here. The amount of time we get to spend in the shop as well as in the book is incredible, and I am learning more things about myself than I ever thought I could. If you are interested in working with your hands and building a nonstop career in anything you want to do, check out the welding program, Tallahassee Community College. Go Eagles.
So that is one of the examples of what we are looking for in ensuring that something with the centralized student service approach is that we can continue to have students be happy about what we're offering and at the same time completing. So what is our ultimate goal, or what is my ultimate goal with this approach? Obviously, it's to make sure that we're strengthening our impact to help all students, regardless of program choice in their walk in life. So this particular model will be for those students who are obviously clock hour students. Also, at the same time, it might be for those students that are at-risk AA students. The AA track might not be the best for them, but however, if we are making them aware of other opportunities, again, we talked about those barriers. If it's financial, if they don't want to be in school that long, different things of that nature, they do, or we do have other options that can fit their needs for that moment. So again, we want to strengthen our impact. And then obviously, last but not least, but increase enrollment, retention, and completion of all CTC students. Then, my timeline so far based on what I've done.
Hi, I'm Angie.
Yep. So the timeline. So in April, I did do a pre-assessment and cross-training with TCC advisors, as I mentioned earlier. I also, going back to February, I can't see from this way, even with glasses. I did meet with various individuals to let them know what I was doing, to see what they thought and how we should go about it. So then it went to me doing the pre-assessment and cross-training with the TCC advisors to kind of, again, get a baseline to see what they knew. And with the cross-training we had in the pre-assessment, a number of them felt that they somewhat agreed with the fact that they knew a little bit of information about WD. However, with the pre-assessment, it didn't quite equate to that. So which then leads us to doing some additional cross-training and then doing post-assessment. And then hopefully in June, I will go ahead and move forward with our focus groups to get that insight from our students, and then work on developing online orientation, and then hopefully implementing it for the fall. And then last but not least, again, our purpose, which is another short video for success.
Shalina, and I decided to join the commercial vehicle driving program at Tallahassee Community College for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that I had industry knowledge on the non-driving side of the industry. So I already knew. My second reason is that it has unlimited earning potential, and also it comes with a sense of freedom as well. And so I just felt like that's what I needed in my life at this point, so I decided to join. I am so grateful that I joined this program. The instructors are so kind, they're so knowledgeable, and they're so encouraging. My classmates were also kind and encouraging. They were like my best cheerleaders. Anyone that's wanting to join this program, I would say, if you have researched the industry and you feel like it's for you, go for it. TCC is there. They got your back, and you got this.
And thank you.
Hi, I'm Angelina, and I decided.
Good job, future doctor. All right, excellent. So now she has to go get her doctorate. Really good stuff. I'm going to invite now Dr. Ken Tellis, and he's going to share his capstone focus with us. So let's welcome Dr. Tellis.
Good afternoon. I'm Ken Tellis from the Division of Healthcare Professions out at the Gasvini Center, and I'm here to present my capstone, which is going to be about examining policy impacts. So it's a policy impact study to determine the results of adjusting the admissions criteria during COVID-19. So where we were Monday, March 16th, was embarking as an institution on kind of a great unknown. And we knew there were going to be some adjustments that we would have to make. But the question that was out there, are we up to the challenge? One of the first things that impacted the nursing program was the fact that the testing center was no longer able to offer in-person testing, namely the HESI admissions test. So Dr. Stringer, Dr. Solomon began to explore ways to ensure access for students who want to get into the nursing program in the fall of 2020, and also make sure that we have equity, diversity at the same distribution that we've normally had. So it was decided that we would substitute the HESI criterion with course repeats. So a no repeat policy was instituted for the fall of 2020. So the purpose of the study was to assess the impact of replacing the HESI as a selection criterion with a course repeat policy relative to, our outcome would be academic performance at the end of the fall semester as compared to the end of this past spring semester, to compare and contrast and see if there were any differences. So it's important to make sure that students are prepared, so we didn't lose sight of that. We wanted to make sure that the reason that we use HESI in the first place, we kept that in mind, to make sure that students are able to demonstrate critical thinking and communication skills. And the course repeat policy was the best alternative that we could come up with. So again, the methodology here was to look at performance on the HESI in conjunction with GPA. Those are the two criteria for selection, as compared to what we did in fall 2020, which was use of a course repeat policy in conjunction with GPA. So where would the differences be in terms of the overall performance of the two groups, and also in terms of equity and diversity? I am pleased to report, and I also want to thank Margaret Wingate Thompson in the institutional effectiveness area for getting us the data so quickly. We were able to run quantitative analyses on both groups using the final grade for NP1, Nursing Process 1, for fall 2020 as compared to spring 2021. It was a population of about 140 students, 72 in one group, 68 in the other. And what we found was there was no statistically significant difference in mean performance in terms of final grade. We also found that the distribution of underrepresented minority groups, even with the advent of this on-the-spot policy change, was about the same. So the only thing left for us to do for further research is to keep our eyes focused for new and innovative ways to create diversity, equity, and pathways for folks from underrepresented minority groups. So we'll continue to look at these cohorts and see how they perform for the remainder of the program. And if there turns out to be any significant difference in semesters 2, 3, and then their final 4th semester, is there a difference? And this ends my capstone study. Any questions?
All righty. And I don't know if there's time for Q&A maybe towards the end, but if you have questions for any of them, I'm sure they would be happy to answer. I would like to now invite Dr. Nick Vick to come up, and he's going to share his project focus on the academic success coaches, his work in the Learning Commons, which, by the way, won the 2021 Innovation of the Year Award through the League for Innovation.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who was involved with our success coaching efforts throughout the year. So I could go down the line: Jennifer, Provost Stringer, Anthony, Angela, and many others who were involved with it. It was truly a team effort. And also Sam DeZerga, who I think Sam is in the back. Oh, Sam's in the back. She's our full-time success coach and really instrumental to the success that we've had with the program this year. So I wanted to share kind of the framework for the success coaching effort that we implemented in the fall, focused on full-time, first-time in college students. And in the spring, really wanted to ramp up these efforts. So I called it, for my capstone project, Success Coaching 2.0. So our second level of success coaching involved really these 3 distinct areas. One was the strategic caseload management. So each coach has an assigned cohort of students that they then broke down into high, medium, and low risk factors and indicators to make sure that we were providing support to the students who we thought would need it the most. And from there, we established goals for reaching out to those students. We also continued with our targeted text messaging campaigns, where we were checking in on a nearly weekly basis with students to provide nudges and check on the students' progress. We also implemented what we called pop-up videos, which appear on our Learning Commons MyTCC page, and are really short videos that provide different information for students, time management, test taking, and so forth. And then third, our coaches continued to work with early alerts. And we worked with our coaching team of 10 success coaches to create what we called intervention pathways, so that each coach had a framework for responding to our early alerts. And in the spring, I think we had over 900 early alerts that were submitted. So faculty are definitely taking advantage of this process, and now we've got a really structured way to respond. So this is an example of one of the text messages that our success coaches send out. And you can see that we incorporate the emojis. Yay, that's fun. And it's a way for us to check in with the students, remind them that they have, in this case, a major assignment coming up, and really just see how they're doing and what's going on, and if we can provide support. So we try to make it fun for them and connect to the students in that way. Here's a screenshot of a pop-up video made by one of our success coaches, which is all about how to communicate with your professor. And this is a screenshot, so I can't play the actual video. This video is about 30 seconds long, but includes 6 or 7 different tips and ideas for students to connect with their faculty members. So I think it was created using TikTok, I'm pretty sure. So it's a fun way to connect with students. And then the very last piece that I wanted to share is kind of a large comprehensive overview of success coaching efforts. And what I really wanted to point out here is the top right column, where you can see that over the academic year, our team has sent more than 100,000 text messages to students. And that is an ongoing effort to connect with students in a variety of different ways. And so, really proud of those efforts. Also, 31,000 plus emails exchanged with students. So exchanged, that means that the students responded to the emails. So we have the ongoing outreach efforts through texting, calling, and emailing the students, and hope to continue this effort moving forward into the summer and then, of course, next academic year. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. Excellent. All right, at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Angelina Kuleshova to discuss psychologically attuned communication about academic warning. Angelina.
Hello, hi. So I'm a faculty member, of course, math instructor, but I'm also, my graduate degree is in educational psychology. That's why this project is very close to my heart, if you wonder. So it was relatively focused. It's a very focused project. But so what I did for my capstone project was I worked to revise the institutional messaging, or the notification that students get once they are placed on academic warning. So, and so I did have a few partners in the work. Of course, I worked with student affairs with a representative there from the advising office, Dean Johnston and her staff. I also worked with Sam DeZerga, the rock star that Nick mentioned from the Learning Commons. She was able to connect me with the students on academic warning because she works with them as well. And I also did work with the external partner. It's the research group called the College Transition Collaborative at Stanford University, and they were able to share some of the templates and resources that I use to revise the messaging that I'm going to talk about next. So, you know, of course, when I say psychologically attuned communication, that basically means that it's any kind of institutional communication that we send to students that's kind of sensitive to how the students might interpret the communication, especially in relation to events that might be upsetting to them, like being placed on academic warning. And so there's some principles, a few principles that I used, research-based principles, to revise the message or the notification letter that students get. So those are the design principles. The first one, you know, that's important is to basically frame the academic warning status not so much as a label, like you're being placed on this, or you're somehow, you know, deficient in some way, but more of a process, as a growing process, as a learning process. So really frame it as an opportunity for growth for students. It's also important to use the principle of normalizing the difficulties that students are experiencing, basically being very explicit that this is normal, because students receiving this notification a lot of times feel like they're the only ones who are experiencing these kinds of challenges. And so to communicate to them there are other students who have these challenges, who have been able to work through them and be successful, is very important. And also just be very explicit about emphasizing the belief in students' potential to actually succeed and return to good standing. And I do have just a quick kind of excerpt from the revised message. So as you can see, the letter, the notification states very explicit about saying that the academic warning is a process, and that, you know, many students participate in this process, and then they do their resources such as working with the advisor and the academic success coach. And so if students do access the resources, they do have a chance of returning to good standing and to have a successful career at TCC. So this is just an excerpt of, obviously, the notification letter itself is very explicit about what academic warning means and what the requirements are, but there are these sort of psychologically attuned pieces that are embedded into the letter. And then, well, there's another principle that's used. That's also an important principle. And to, again, within the letter, is to acknowledge that students, you know, that there's a variety of factors that contribute to student difficulties. Because, you know, sometimes we tell to students, you know, just go to class. Like, for next time, you start going to class. But if we're explicit about that, you know, there might be reasons why students were not able to go to class in the first place, like such as, you know, experiencing issues related to physical or mental health, or finances, but basically being explicit about that in the messaging will help them feel more supported and kind of engage in more adaptive behaviors following this notification. And so as part of the revising this notification, I have sent the revised letter to the advising office at some point. Once it's used, I'm hoping to kind of follow up and see if it makes any difference in the outcomes. But so for right now, in terms of my data, I did talk to, or I gathered responses from students who are currently on academic warning. There's only 9 responses that I got, so it's pretty low response rate. So I let them review the current notification message as well as the revised notification message, and assessing whether it made a difference for them psychologically. And so basically, the overall pattern of those responses is that the revised letter, it's not a silver bullet, but it did tend to kind of minimize those extreme responses. So like, for instance, to the question of, after reading the letter, I feel hopeful. To the current letter, there were 2 responses that strongly disagreed with that. So, but the revised letter didn't have any of those strongly disagree responses. But the good news is that even the notification in its current form already, we have about 4 students in the sample kind of do get a sense of feeling hopeful even after receiving that current notification. So it's not that bad, even it's in original state. So, so what are some reasons for kind of engaging in this psychological attunement, particularly with respect to academic warning messaging? Well, as Gerald mentioned, that basically, in how we communicate to students makes, even like subtle differences, can make a difference in terms of the meaning that they make about whether they belong in college, whether they're capable of succeeding, and whether they actually engage in adaptive behaviors after experiencing the challenge. And also, specifically, it does help with traditionally marginalized and underrepresented students, this kind of psychological attunement. And the reason why that's important is, so this is the data that I've reviewed. So the blue bars, I don't know if you can see, but basically represents the total population of TCC, about 11,000 students. So as you can see, we have about 31% are Black students, 48% are white students, and we have about 43% that are Pell eligible. Now in the red, that's the population that are on academic warning. So as you can see, we have overrepresentation of our marginalized groups within that academic warning population. We have 50% within that population are Black students, and then 60%, over 60% are Pell eligible. So within that academic warning student population, we can, by focusing on that population specifically, we can certainly work on or kind of help advance the equity goals at TCC. Now, sort of the the sad news about that population. So this is the academic warning population from fall 2019. So there's about over 1,000 students within that population. So it's about 10% of our TCC population, which is on average typically. So about 10% of our students every semester go on to academic warning status. Now, so this is from fall 2019, looking at the enrollment of those, over 1,000 students this past semester. In the spring, only 26% of them were still enrolled. So we're losing like a lot of students within that academic warning population. So the point is, even small interventions like psychologically attuning the notifications that these students get could potentially make a difference. So we certainly moving forward, oops, I guess I lost one of my slides, but moving forward, we have to just continue looking within that population and seeing the difference that we can make, because, in general, this kind of work also fits within the academic mindsets work, which is kind of becoming a widely talked about topic. Basically, in order for us as institutions to influence students' completion, student success, we have to more directly influence their academic mindsets, which, sense of belonging and growth mindset, et cetera, are part of that. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. I hope that for those of you sitting here, you're finding interest in a lot of this data, that we can work together to try to figure out how do we move forward. So at this time, thank you so much, Angelina. I would like to introduce two of our amazing professors, Dr. Andrea Oliver, and Professor Susan Wester, and they brought their families, so you're welcome to introduce whoever you'd like.
Middle in the middle. What's Angela? Angela, which button? How do you move it forward? Which is it? To the big right button. The right. This one. Yeah, this one. That is the right. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, kids. They're my children. My handsome husband. How y'all doing? All right. So the capstone project that I'm here to introduce, that I've worked in conjunction with my amazing partner, Susan, and I'll let her introduce her family, is SOAR. And this really came about because of a conversation that we had in our very, very first leadership meeting back in, way back in the fall. We were talking about how we are really about to experience on our campuses in the next 3 to 4 years a generation or a population of students that I'm referring to as the COVID cohort. We're talking about our babies, our precious babies, who, because of the pandemic of last spring, had their educational processes interrupted. And not only is this going to bring about a substantial academic disruption, but it's also going to bring about a substantial social and emotional disruption as well. And what are we going to do as an institution to be prepared for that? I personally believe, because me being the former middle school teacher that I am, because that is where I started my career as an 8th grade teacher, that although I'm not prepared to say high school is entirely too late to reach some of our students, I'm saying that's a little late in the ball game. And if you really want to make an impact and you really want to make a difference in the lives of students, and by extension, the lives of their families, we have to really start at the middle school level. And it's not just an anecdotal observation that I'm making. There's a substantial body of research that tells us that educational efficacy actually starts as young as the 5th grade. In other words, 5th grade students either see themselves as future college students or rappers. And I'm being a little bit, common in the language, but the substantial body of research really bears that out. If you really want to make a difference, if you want these students to experience success in high school, we really have to orient them as early as middle school. So this is what we're talking about, particularly with math. And for a number of our students who were already struggling even before the pandemic, math is the last subject that you really want to do on a distance learning basis without direct instructional intervention. Am I right about that, 9th grade algebra teacher at Godby, Mr. Eddie Oliver? Math is like the last subject that they need to be doing on Zoom, self-directed study, especially when they don't have necessarily the social nor the academic maturity with which to negotiate that modality of learning. So it is out of this or against this backdrop that we decided that we want to, as a partner in this community, and that speaks directly to our strategic plan, developing partnerships, something I know that the Aspen Committee was very interested in as well. What are we doing to reach down to help our middle school students who would be our one-day high school students who we want to one day hopefully have come here? What are we doing? So this is an attempt to address and answer that question. So it's against this backdrop that SOAR was born. It is a 3-week summer program designed to provide enrichment in math for middle school students attending Title I schools in the 32304, 05, and 10 zip codes, specifically the schools of Griffin Middle School, Nims Middle School, and Fort Braden School. Why those schools in particular? 2 of those 3 schools are actual feeder schools to Godby, a high school that we're continuing to cultivate a deep and abiding partnership with. The 3rd school, Nims, is a direct feeder school to Rickards, which is one of our South Side historically socially disadvantaged high schools. So in addition to offering remediation in math, and again, why did we pick math? Because math is one of those gateway disciplines that opened the door to a number of programs, not just on the AA degree side, but also on the AS and technical career degree side as well, certification side as well. Okay, so the rationale for developing this program, and our acronym SOAR, which stands for Success Over All Restrictions. I want to give public thanks to our marketing department for coming up with that amazing logo that you see. That is going to be the brand, or that is going to be the logo that we're going to use to brand the swag items that we plan to provide our participants with. I also want to publicly thank both Dr. Murdaugh and Heather Mitchell for the foundation for the support that they've already pledged for the participants in our program. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, schools nationwide shifted instruction to online remote learning, which affected 55 million students. And this is what really is the impetus for what we're trying to do. Experts advise that the typical learning loss for students already performing below grade level already places them at an educational disadvantage that will be only more profound because of the unprecedented learning disruptions. So we already kind of spoke to that. Just how profound are we talking? Here are some quantitative numbers for you to consider. According to an Edutopia article from May of 2020, experts believe that learning loss for these students will occur at rates between 32 and 37% in reading, but look at that level in math, 50%. So if you're 50% of where you're already not supposed to be, that places you at an even more of a disadvantage. So we feel that we're uniquely positioned as an institution to invest some of our resources to address an issue that affects the families in our communities. And that's what we are trying to direct those resources and position ourselves to do. So now I'm going to turn the rest of the presentation over to my partner, Professor Wessner, who's going to speak about our timeline, as well as the assessment data that we're going to use, the assessment vehicles that we're going to use to tell us if what we did and what we're doing is actually indeed making the impact that we're seeking and hoping that it makes.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so our timeline, we started in January. That was when our project started. And February to March, we spent quite a bit of time realizing, wow, to get middle school students onto this campus is more than just having one person sign a form. We had many meetings with HR and deans and provosts and everybody to make sure that we could bring these students onto campus. And so we have done that. We've gotten the permissions. And now the last month and into this month, we have contacted our participant schools, and we're meeting with the principals and assistant principals in those 3 schools. Monday, Andrea and I will be hitting the ground running, literally, to the schools to start getting our participants figured, like having them identified so that we can get participants set up for the camp. The camp will start June 14th. We're going to pull 6 students from each middle school, so we'll have a total of 18 students on campus. They'll be here for 3 weeks. They'll be receiving instruction in math and study skills. And we have partnered, if you want to go to the next one, Andrea, this is one of the things down at the bottom, but we've partnered with Second Harvest, thanks to Andrea for reaching out to them, and they're going to give us take-home lunches, bag lunches for the students every day. And on Friday, Heather Mitchell was so nice to give us money from the foundation. We're going to have pizza parties on Friday, along with guest speakers for the students. So our hopeful outcomes of our project will be that they will see measurable gains in their math skills. We will be giving them a pre and post assessment to see what type of skills they've gained over the 3-week period. We will also be giving them a survey at the end, because we are promoting TCC as their college of choice. And a lot of people say, well, middle school, what the heck? They don't even know what they're going to do. But you've got to start then. And if they get the idea, hey, TCC is cool, I want to go there, it's going to stick in their head. And if, 4 years from now, 5 years, we're going to see them. Those kids will be here. So that's the idea there. And also, it's going to give them a nice alternative, hopefully. A lot of them want to stay home and play video games, but we're hoping that the incentives that we're going to give them, they're going to get gift cards, TCC swag, not to mention they're going to have a foot up on the competition when they go back to school in the fall. And that is our SOAR project.
All right, we have 2 more presentations. I'm going to now introduce Dr. Felicia Williams, and she's going to share about the GED Student Success Toolkit. And then following, last but not least, is our librarian, head of this librarian services, Stephen Bannister. So let's welcome Dr. Williams. You want me to do it?
You.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not great with technology. So I'm going to work from this side. It seems a little bit easier for me. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're enjoying everything so far. So I want to first thank my colleagues, Sharice Turner and Joe Hurd, in working with this project and getting, at least getting it started. So the project overview, it's a model-driven student tutorial experience designed to provide quick links to student success, best practices, and resources. Okay. Now, what does this mean? So we identified the GED students, which are coming into TCC, and so what we would like to do is provide support for them to the identified population, and then also provide equitable outcomes and experiences for the GED graduates. So what that means is we have students who enter TCC or are thinking about coming to TCC and entering into our GED program. And so what we want to do is get them acclimated to TCC as quickly as possible. And that means creating these tools that will assist them and help them become successful as they navigate their way through the GED program. Now, what does that mean? Outcomes. The entire goal, just like all of our students here at TCC, is student success. And so when we look at, the first thing we look at is campus resources and study skills. As we know, having these resources in place are very important to our students. And so we especially want to have something in place for our GED students because we want them to feel welcome and we want them to be engaged with TCC. Sometimes they might feel disconnected, but with this system, with our tool, what we want to do is have them be connected right away, okay? Study skills are very important, and I've always felt like we had the resources available here on campus for all of our students to be successful. And so now we can also include our GED students in terms of having them be aware of our campus resources and study skills that will assist them in being successful. Academic support, very important in terms of getting the support that they need, making them feel welcome academically, maybe introducing them to our academic coaches, our academic success coaches, academic mapping, making sure that they're on the right track and staying on the right track is very important. Finances. Now, once we get them here, we want to keep them here. So we want to have them continue their education to explore maybe our certificate programs, the associate in science degree programs, and even our associate in arts degree programs, which will assist them in transitioning on to a university. So what's the question? How am I going to pay for it? A lot of times we have students who want to pursue their education or continue with their education, but then they think, well, how am I going to finance that? So we want to provide opportunities for them to finance their education, either through student loans or either through scholarship opportunities. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to Ms. Mitchell at the table earlier, and she said there's some funding possibly available for those students, our GED students who want to continue their education. So what better way than to have them do that to get it free? That's a better way to put it. So finances through scholarship opportunities. Extracurricular activities, again, like most of our students, it's very important to get our students engaged right away. So with that engagement, again, comes back to being connected to our institution as a whole. So we don't want to wait, we want to get them connected right away. So again, having those extracurricular activities out there and available for them to be able to participate is very important. And also, we know that once students are engaged, that also helps them with their academic enrichment to be successful. Okay.
Come on up. Great job. Thank you, Dr. Williams. You did a great job. You guys are so patient. You're going to get bunt cakes after this, so it's all worth it. Bunt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I guess I want to, let's see, how much time we have left? 20 minutes, 30? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Welcome, everybody, and I just wanted to take a few minutes, hopefully 5 minutes or less, and a chance to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the library. Well, when we first started discussing capstone project for the Leadership Institute, one of the things I kept wondering, what should we measure? Are we doing all these assessment tools? We're doing all this different assessment. And one of the things we've been talking a lot about is embedded services and embedded librarians. And of course, a lot of people go like, exactly what does that mean? And what is the usefulness of having this actually take place? And so I went to my librarians and said, look, I have this idea about doing some sort of study to look at our embedded services, as particularly embedded classes with the librarians who are actively engaging with the students with library orientation, instruction sessions, et cetera. And Scylla said exactly, Scylla Lott, I'm sure many of you know her, stepped up and said, I want to do this, and I know somebody who will be very interested in helping out with this. And so she reached out to Nikki Constantino, and we set up a study to do ENC 1102. We picked 3 different classes, sections, I should say, of the same class, so that way we would have a fairly good cohort or group of people to be able to do this. So each section, it was the same instructor, librarian, and information literacy session, but receives instruction through 3 different modalities. Asynchronous, which is your typical online, and then your synchronous, which is your Zoom Live, and something called Flipped Classroom, which is still a synchronous Zoom Live session. But what I mean by a flipped classroom environment is basically this. Instead of the typical instructor, in this case, Ms. Constantino, is the librarian, Scylla Lott, was taking the lead in the instruction session for the flipped classroom. That way you can kind of get a better idea of the measuring the modalities and how things are going on with the instruction sessions, with her taking the lead in lieu of the instructor herself. Okay, and so we did a spring 2021 data was collected, which I actually have in my hand right here. And then we had the fall 2021 data we will be collecting in the fall. And that way we'll have at least a good balanced picture of what the spring and fall looks like. And then at that point, we'll decide if we want to go on with future studies to see how we measure against maybe spring 2022 versus spring 2021. Okay, the rationale, and I'll read it to you real quick. The faculty and librarians constantly face struggles with student engagement, quality of student performance on their research assignments, and lack of student preparation despite extraneous efforts on the parts of the faculty and librarians to engage students, and particularly with the COVID environment that we've been working in since March of 2020. That, of course, was even more part of the bigger picture, like how does this actually going to work? And so we really wanted to take a look and see how this was going to happen. So the study was going to explore and trial the most learning modalities will be the most effective for students. So we came up with some assessment tools. We came up with a number of different questions that would measure the impact of the student, how their success rate it was going to be engaged, and we also were looking at the grades that were connected to the assignments themselves and see how the assignment was successful or not when our instruction sessions were taking place. So as a result, we did the initial assessment in spring, and then a second study would be conducted. This is what happened. Okay. Expected outcomes. Higher engagement with the library in the flipped classroom and asynchronous classroom environment. To the tune of looking at our grades is that we had a fairly good skew towards A's and B's with the assignment for the flipped classroom environment, followed very closely to the asynchronous learning environment, and then finally the live Zoom. Now, so what we're getting from this particular result is that obviously engagement is critical for this. And so let's look at how the picture is with the flipped classroom environment. So with Ms. Slotz taking the lead on the instruction sessions, then doing the measurement afterwards, we can see there's a greater connection that was going on with the assignment and with the instruction session for the libraries. So that was really important. So that gave us a good picture. And then we did the same thing in the asynchronous environment, and then finally with the live Zoom. So the more engagement we were seeing with the librarian, with the class, means that we were making an impact. And so to me, we're going to do obviously some additional studies in the fall and maybe even the spring, and that's very encouraging data sets, and I'll have more data. I'm going to still going through the data at this point, but so far the trend's showing that the more we do in the form of engagement, the more success we're going to have as a result. So I'm very excited about this and see how our services will evolve in the future. And that is all. Thank you so much for your time.
So listen, I know you're all inspired. Let's give them one more round of applause. So listen, Dr. Murdaugh, it's your moment in the sun up here. I know you're excited. I'm going to introduce the president to come up now, our amazing president, Jim Murdaugh, and he is responsible for really the thought behind this program and why we're doing it. And this has been an amazing, remarkable year. And so he would like to acknowledge our class, and I'm going to invite Jennifer to come up to help pass out the awards. So President Murdaugh.
Yeah, and we're gonna do the awards now, right? Yes. Okay, cool. Before we do that, I want to give a special thanks, hard to see out there, I want to give a special thanks to the families that are here. Thank you for supporting your loved ones who are here at this college doing the amazing work that they're doing. I'm so glad you had a chance to come, because I know in my conversations with them, they are inspired by you. So, Andrea, we know your story of inspiration with your husband, but wonderful to have your kids. I can see them. So thank you all for being here. And to the others from the college who haven't been in the class itself, but have popped in from time to time and certainly are here today to join us in congratulating and acknowledging the folks who are completing this program. Thank you for taking the time to do it. I hope you feel like I feel, that the President's Leadership Institute has been a wonderful investment in the future of this college. And the future of this college is bright if the folks that are in this one class are going to be steering the ship forward. It's going to continue to be bright as we move forward with others. So again, thank you for that. As I have said, and I cannot say enough, Dr. Long, thank you. Amazing work. And Jennifer, who's always quiet out there, amazing work, Jennifer. We appreciate you both. So with that, let's commence the commencement. How does this proceed?
So we're going to call one at a time. We have a professional photographer this evening. We're going to start with you and a video presentation, so you get to go first.
So would you like this?
Sure. So let's congratulate Stephen Bannister, and each of them are getting a beautiful plaque. And so we'll just get a photo with our president here. But his quote, we asked them all to give us their favorite leadership quote. And his favorite leadership quote was, "Without courage, wisdom bears no fruit." So congratulations, Stephen. We're excited to see what you're going to do. Now, Julie could not make it, but Julie, we will acknowledge you. And her quote was, "Leaders are best when people barely know they exist. When their work is done and their aim is fulfilled, people will say, 'We did it ourselves.'" Pretty powerful quote. So congratulations, Julie. Amy Bradbury, come on up. So Amy, her favorite quote at the beginning of the year is, "To know what is right and not do it is the worst cowardice," by Confucius. Very well said. And yes, budgets are exciting, Amy. Who said they weren't? She did, but they're fun. Brielle Crooms, come on up. So Brielle submitted her quote, and she said, "Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence." Pretty powerful statement. Congratulations, Brielle. Jessica, soon to be Dr. Griffin, she just doesn't know it yet. So her quote that she submitted to us is that we are not on earth to see how important we can become, but to see how much difference we can make in the lives of others. I concur. Pretty powerful statement. Well done. Beautiful. And you all see when you get your plaques, there's a really nice quote because we like quotes in this program. So I'd like to now invite Brian Hooper to come up. Congratulations on your new position as the dean. Congratulations. And Brian's quote that he submitted to us is this, quote, "Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time, now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime." So congratulations, Brian. Gerald Jones. Gerald Jones. And congratulations to you for your position recently as well as our new Associate Vice President of Student Affairs. And so he has a very beautiful but simple quote: "Enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare." Dr. Jones. You have to have, the boss has to get a photo. Congratulations, Gerald. You all made it through the year. Angelina Kulishova. And so her quote is, "To lead people, walk beside them. As for the best leaders, the people do not notice their existence. When the best leaders' work is done, the people say, 'We did it ourselves.'" There was another quote, but apparently it is a very powerful one. So great work, Angelina. Andrea Oliver with her beautiful family here. And I'm excited about her nonprofit and all that's coming for you as well. So her favorite quote, "Great leaders don't set out to be a leader. They set out to make a difference. It is never about the role and always about the goal." Congratulations. All right, Ken Tellis. Ken's powerful quote is, "To be a good leader, you have to be a good communicator." And he is. As a leader, you have to communicate your intent every chance you get. And if you fail to do that, you will pay the consequences. Very true. So congratulations, Ken. Nicholas Vick, director of our Learning Commons. So he's quoting our former president, Barack Obama. "If you're walking down," the former president before the other, "if you're walking down the right path and you're willing to keep walking, eventually you will make progress." And that is very good. Very true. Congratulations, Nick. Susan Westner, and you brought your wonderful family. Susan really does have a heart for education, both you and Andrea and Angelina, all of our faculty. And her quote is, "All of our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them." Walt Disney. And Walt Disney was told that he lacked imagination. So imagine if there's a crow on your back, just keep going higher. The people in here that don't know the video don't know, but keep going higher. And finally, Felicia Williams, who has now been promoted to career and academic advisor. And she's got a really great quote by John Maxwell that says, "To add value to others, one must first value others." And that is very, very true. So congratulations, Felicia. So before we move, we actually have a special thank you, I am told, and I'm going to ask Brielle to come up. And I'm not sure what it's all about, but I know that they would like to have the microphone. So.
Okay, well, we have a few individuals that will help with presenting. And so if you are one of those individuals that would like to say a few words, please come forward. And if we can have Jennifer, if you can also come to the stage as well. Since the president and Angela are already up here, we want to provide something to you all. Let's do Angela, Jennifer, then the president. All right. Angela's the flowers? Yes.
This is to Dr. Long. We wanted to present you with this as a thank you for all of your hard work for the program. The activity we did earlier talked about your brightness and your glowing, so we decided to get you flowers.
And we would like to present a special token to Jennifer, who kept all the trains running on time. So, thank you.
Okay, so I step forward first. And we just wanted to thank Dr. Murdoch for the time, wisdom, oh my gosh, pearls of wisdom about leadership. Just the whole year has been amazing, and we really appreciate the time you've taken with us.
Ditto. Yes. But also thank you for your vision of this program and for bringing us together to connect with one another and collaborate. And as Susan mentioned, the time that you spent with each of us, as you'll see, there's a symbolic time gift in there for you. But it's not a bomb, not a bomb. But we thank you. We thank you very much.
Right, a chocolate bomb. Just as Susan and Nick said, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for just giving us your insight, because I feel you've instilled a piece of you in each one of us. And if it wasn't for the PLI, I don't think we would be where we are today in growth and mindset. So again, on behalf of our class, the first class, thank you.
We did have a video from Julie Baruti. However, we're going to provide it to you all via email, and it's to each and every one of you. So thank you all so much.
I've had music every time I've come up today. It's kind of cool. Gosh, once again, what a remarkable journey we have just had, and this is not the end of the trip. So, thank you so much. Thank you for your kindness to me. I've told you already how much I appreciate the opportunity I've had to get to know each and every one of you who's been in this class. It's very special. So thank you for that. And gosh, I feel like apologizing. You know, I hate to eat and run, but I will tell you the reason I have to be at 3 o'clock meeting is that I've got a Zoom with a selection committee that I put together to help select the replacement for our retiring executive director, E.E. Eunice, and that's at 3 o'clock on the nose, and you know how Zoom is, those of you who do Zoom. So again, if it were not for that, I'd hang around and eat bundt cakes with you. But thank you again, and congratulations to all of you. I'm so thrilled we didn't have to process any academic withdrawals for any of you. It's been a joy. Yep. All right, Candace wants a group photo.